Thank you so much for the invitation, especially for AfricanBrains. And before I start, I wanted to emphasize that one of the sacrifices I made to be here was my invitation to be at the World Economic Forum annual meeting that is taking place in Davos. So when I didn't accept the invitation, so my explanation was actually in Zimbabwe there is a similar event as effective as that could be of the World Economic Forum annual meeting, but it's focused on the education industry. So it was more important for me to be here than the World Economic Forum. So to start with, the slide that you see is for sure it's intentional, so that so the focus is on me than the presentation. So to begin with, it was approximately about 12 years back when I was 14 years, and I used to hail from a middle class family, and I didn't have a home computer. And my dad used to work for the Indian Armed Forces in India. So I used to find all my school friends having home PCs, and I didn't have one. So I really felt that I was not in the elite circle of my friends who had access to ICTE. So I thought at least I could actually show off to them, probably with my knowledge. I may not be able to show off with them probably with my laptop or a home PC, because I knew that my dad couldn't afford it. So when I used to cycle back home, I saw an internet shop or a cyber center which was in the neighborhood, and it was not open from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. in the afternoon, because the shop owner used to shut down the shop for his lunch break. And the pocket money I had was about 15 rupees, that's like about approximately half a US dollar. And if I had to use the internet even for 1 hour, I had to pay about 100 rupees. That's approximately 4 times the pocket money I had for every month, so even if I had to use for 1 hour. So that is when I felt that I see that anyway the shop is not open from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. So is there any way that I could approach the shop owner to ask him after my school if I could operate the shop when he goes for his lunch? In exchange, I use the internet for free of cost. So I must say that it was the first deal and the best deal of my life. So that is how I got interfaced to the world of computers. And I was a freelancer. I had ambition to build. I wanted to monetize my skills, so I started to learn how to build websites. So I started to build websites for these American brick-and-mortar companies with an objective that I can afford a home computer. But I realized that unless, I had this American company who asked me for my CV. When I sent my CV, they sent me an email saying that I don't think you still have a mustache in your life, you're still 14 years. So we feel insecure to work with school kids. So that is when I thought it's more fun to be your own boss, and that's how I thought when Mr. Bill Gates started his company, I was engaged or not, I started the company. So it was when I was 14 I happened to start this organization, Globals Incorporated. According to Indian laws, I was not allowed to start the company, so it incorporated in the US, and finally we moved to India. So when we speak about education, one of the passion I had for education was actually in my school I used to find all my the staff or my teachers who used to mark the attendance in this attendance register, and it used to be every 6 months they used to meet, they used to hold a parent-teacher meeting. So because of the fact that my dad used to be in the armed forces, he couldn't attend these meetings very frequently. And in my case, because I used to go to the internet shop very often, I used to miss my lectures in the school, so I had a shortage of attendance. So every time my dad used to ask that, I used to always tell him that, hey dad, I think you've forgotten, it was 6 months back we went for a family vacation or a family trip. So that is when I understood that why don't we innovate with simple systems? So of course schools, especially in the developing world, would need ICT in their system for better administration and management. So that is why we felt that we could make a nasty system where the teacher takes attendance, would submit attendance in a software, and all the students who are absent, it would automatically send out an SMS to all their fathers and mothers saying that your son hasn't come to school today. So of course students hated me for that, but it was a very successful software. So that is where we felt that currently, in fact, some of the bottlenecks which we face in education management is, of course, as the previous speaker indicated, of course, it is certainly the fact that if you are using manual process, you've not got it's very hard for you to analyze the information. You didn't have business intelligence, and at the same time, if you've not got a well-equipped IT staff within your school, it's very hard for you to administrate the schools. So that is where we felt that, of course, probably you could start using ERP system or education management systems where, starting from the student's admission until the student is an alumni, you start automating and mapping all the processes in the school so that at the moment you don't have to use the probably fragmented applications like Microsoft Excel, or you need not to use a managed process to administrate the school. And this is a very interesting example which our company had introduced about 6 months back in India. In fact, the state-owned schools in India have no electricity as well. So, I mean, if you visit to a school in India, probably in a village, you wouldn't have even stable electricity, or you cannot imagine all these schools having internet connectivity. So, there used to be an incident, and where all the headmasters or the principals of the schools always used to spike up the information of the students that used to attend the school. For example, when we made a survey in one of the schools, which is in south of India, the actual physical attendance of the students in that village was only 5 students in that school. But if you look at those reports which were submitted by the headmasters to the Ministry of Education of that state, it used to be 100 students or 150 students, because the state and the Federal Education Ministry of India used to subsidize the food grains as a midday meal scheme, and at the same time they used to incentivize the students to attend the school with this midday meal scheme. So that is where they used to submit all the information or landscape records. Everything was on manual basis. So it used to take 6 months for the state secretariat to actually receive the information from the school, because everything was on paper based. And at the same time, you can't visit these schools and you can't expect them to start using internet, or you can't start expecting them to use probably laptops or iPad. And that is when our company felt that we could use the existing infrastructure, we could use this legacy infrastructure, which was a mobile phone. So, and at the same time, you can't visit schools and you can't ask them to use iPhones or smartphones. So all the schools the best part was all the headmasters had the simple smartphones. I mean, had the simple mobile phones. It did not have to be a smartphone, which can make phone calls and it can send an SMS, or some of the schools even had these landline phones. So that is where our company felt that we could make use of the phone, which is an existing infrastructure, which is an amazing infrastructure, where our server could make an outgoing call to all the schools in across the state. So, because in one state in India we had about approximately 50,000 schools. So we thought that our server could make an automated outgoing IVRS call to all the school headmasters every day in the morning, and the headmasters would receive an incoming call where it would ask them about 5 questions to the headmaster, telling that how many students have come to school, how many male child, how many female child, what is the attendance of your staff, and how much food grains has been spent for your midday meal scheme. So the headmasters had to input all the information over the phone, over this number pad, on an automated interactive voice response system. So the headquarters, the policymakers were able to aggregate the fresh information. So and the obsolete information, as you see, it used to take about 6 months for the policymakers to receive the information from all these great schools. So that's when we thought we could use mobile phones where the policymakers and the state secretariat would be able to access the fresh information from all these schools, and at the same time they could immediately send out inspectors to these schools to validate in case if any of the schools had manipulated the information, unlike the 6 months obsolete data. And when we even spoke to psychologists, the psychologist's recommendation was that in case if your boss could receive the information at the same time, of course, actually, as a mindset, you would feel very hesitant to manipulate the information. So, as far as you're aware that because your boss or supervisor would have access to the information at the same time, so you'd actually feel very hesitant to manipulate any of the information. So you would actually send as far as possible, you would send the fact data. So we had this example where teachers were able to submit attendance of all the staff, or the headmasters were able to submit attendance of all the staff members in the school. And at the same time, it used to make a verification call to some of the, we call as a village sarpanch, who's supposed to be the village head. So it also used to make a verification call to the village sarpanch to ask him in case if the information submitted by your headmaster of your school is validated or not. And at the same time, we've also implemented ERP systems in school, as the previous speakers were telling that if you could use a cloud-based ERP system, as a school you don't have to invest on your local hardware or software, because everything is hosted. So starting from the student's admission to the student is an alumni, it starts automating all the processes. So it certainly enhances, it certainly streamlines the processes within your school, and for better administration and access to fresh information from across the school, including analytics. So when we had to implement ERP systems, we did have these experiences where the schools felt that we had to invest on servers or hardware. So that's where we thought we could have our own cloud deployment. We'd make the remote implementation so that it's more effective, and at the same time we could offer them ad hoc reporting, by which the schools will have. By the way, the schools need not have to have specific reports. The schools could make its own reports as per its own requirement and workflows. So that's about product in the company. So thank you so much.